There is a unique comfort in the dead of night. Whether you're winding down alone in a quiet house or driving on a stretch of empty highway, the world eventually stops demanding your attention. Our brains play a subtle trick on us during these hours. Because the rest of the world is asleep and silent, we naturally assume that the empty space around us belongs to us alone. We equate that emptiness with safety. But that isolation is a double-edged sword. When no one is around to see or hear you, you are entirely removed from any safety net, rendering you completely vulnerable. The deepest terror in these moments has nothing to do with ghosts or the supernatural. It is the sudden, visceral realization that you are not actually alone in the dark. To understand how this fear operates, we are going to examine 3 true accounts. Each case demonstrates a clear escalation, showing exactly what happens when an unseen threat breaches our physical boundaries, getting closer and closer. The comforting stillness of the night is a fragile illusion. All it takes is one unwelcome trespasser to shatter it. Our first case establishes the baseline level of fear. A group of 6 teenagers in Pennsylvania decided to spend a crisp fall evening drinking inside an abandoned church. They climbed an 8-foot fence, slipped through a side window, and eventually made their way down into the dark, dirt floor basement. The casual atmosphere vanished instantly. Out of nowhere, a heavy door slammed shut in the basement with enough force to make everyone jump. 3 of the friends didn't hesitate. They sprinted up the concrete stairs and out into the night. The remaining 3 decided to investigate the room where the door had slammed. Sitting inside was an old dresser. As they moved closer, they found a black and white photograph of a smiling bride sitting next to a cracked mirror. Smeared across the glass were deep red stains. They weren't dry. They still had a wet, sticky sheen to them. Before they could process what they were looking at, another noise echoed from the pitch-black room they had just left. That was enough. The 3 teens bolted. As they scrambled back over the chain-link fence and hit the pavement, they turned back toward the church. Standing perfectly still in the open window was the silhouette of a person, watching them leave. These teenagers actively crossed into a dangerous space, triggering a defensive, territorial response from whoever, or whatever, was already occupying that basement. The threat escalates when the danger tracks you into a public, isolated setting. After a long shift driving a catering truck, a worker grabbed some late-night fast food and drove to a massive, empty nature preserve. He parked near a scenic lookout point at 2 a.m. to eat in peace. Then, headlights washed over the gravel. A beat-up Volkswagen with tinted windows pulled into the lot. The driver immediately recognized it. It was the exact same car that had been idling in the corner of the McDonald's parking lot miles away. It had followed him to a dead end. Uneasy, he FaceTimed a friend who lived nearby and convinced him to drive up to the preserve. When his friend arrived, they started walking toward the lookout. But as they glanced back, all 4 doors of the Volkswagen opened at once. 4 silent men stepped out into the dark, just looking around at each other. Reaching the top of the lookout, the 2 friends heard voices approaching. 3 men walked out of the dark. They acted casual, offering to share a smoke, but their demeanor was cold. When pressed on why they were at the McDonald's earlier, the ringleader's smile vanished. He pulled back his hoodie to show a fast food uniform, claiming he had just gotten off work. This diagram maps out the interaction at the lookout point. Notice how there are only 3 dots standing in front of the victims. The driver suddenly realized the math didn't add up. 4 men had exited the car in the parking lot. The 4th man was missing from the conversation. Glancing into the tree line, his friend spotted the missing man, half hidden in the shadows, holding an unidentifiable object. The moment the man realized he'd been seen, he started moving toward them. The victims bolted down the path, sprinting to their cars with the 4 men chasing closely behind. This scenario represents a deliberate hunt. The victim was tracked, isolated, and cornered by an unhinged predator who used the emptiness of the preserve to his advantage. The absolute peak of terror occurs when your most secure personal sanctuary is violated. Our final account comes from a widowed welder in his 60s, living alone with his dog on a massive 40-acre farm. It was a space so isolated he could walk the perimeter entirely undisturbed. The dread crept in slowly. One evening, he spotted movement in a second-story window, the unused bedroom he used to share with his late wife. He checked, but found nothing. The next night, his dog growled at heavy, creaking footsteps coming from that exact room. The night after that, he woke up to find the downstairs kitchen lights turned on. Someone was inside the house. Pushed to the brink by exhaustion and fear, he grabbed a flashlight and walked upstairs to check his wife's bedroom one last time. When he pushed the door open, he froze. His late wife's packed-away clothes were scattered all over the floor. Standing right there in the doorway, completely still, was an unidentified woman staring right back at him. Operating purely on adrenaline, the widower charged at her. She bolted down the stairs and vanished out the front door into the dark. Later that night, he caught sight of her silhouette standing out in the moonlit yard, just watching him through the window. He had to run outside and fire warning shots from his hunting rifle into the air to finally drive her into the darkness. When a stranger infiltrates the physical center of your home and stands among the belongings of a loved one in the dead of night, the very concept of a safe space is destroyed. Across all three of these accounts, there is a chilling common thread. The silhouette in the church window, the violent stalker in the woods, and the home invader. None of them were ever caught or neutralized. Escaping the physical danger is only the beginning. The trauma mutates, evolving from a single night of terror into a permanent state of hypervigilance. The victims now live under a new set of rules. The widower sleeps with a loaded rifle next to his bed. The delivery driver has abandoned his late-night routines to avoid being tracked again. These specific, grounded changes are the lasting evidence of their encounters. The sense of safety we find in isolation is built on the assumption that no one is watching. Once that assumption is shattered by a stranger appearing where they aren't supposed to be, the quiet of the night feels very different. Every unexplained shadow or creak you hear tonight is a reminder of how easily a boundary can be crossed. When the house settles, take a second to listen and consider who might be sharing